that we have to encourage the innovation, but definitely keeping in view that human rights take precedence over everything. Thank you.
Thank you, colleague. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Natalia, and to the rest of the core group for convening today's informal and for bringing this initiative to the HRC. I do not profess to have expertise in the area of neurotechnology. I presume I'm not alone in the room on this. So I'd like to also thank you for circulating the concept note, which helped to offer more context in this area. I'm awaiting final instructions from Capital. However, initial theories on this resolution are generally positive, and we look forward to working with the core group constructively throughout the session on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucinda. Argentina.
Muchas gracias and good morning, everyone. Argentina wants to thank the proponents for the draft resolution circulated, and I joined the team of the non-experts as the UK, so thank you also for the concept note. The draft resolution has been sent to our capital and it's currently under analysis. While we wait for particular inputs and comments on the text, please allow me to make a very few general comments. Preliminarily, we believe this is a relevant topic that requires further understanding. We believe the way proposed by the draft resolution, requesting a study to be prepared by the advisory committee, will provide us with the necessary elements to better understand this complex and frontier issue and decide on further steps in the HRC. In this sense, the draft resolution is straightforward and focuses on the primary need to kick off the process with HRC. I will stop here and hopefully send the proponents our comments on the draft text in writing in the upcoming days. Thank you very much.
Yes. Now, Costa Rica.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for giving me the floor. Would like to thank on behalf of our delegation for presenting this resolution. We do think that the text put forward by the core group is a very good starting point to discuss this topic and to start giving it a human rights-based approach, which is quite necessary. We see the focus of the resolution as positive and forward-leaning. And having said that, and despite all the potential benefits of neurotechnology, we do have to take a precautionary approach to it. And so we'll be making some suggestions during the informals. And thanks again for the text. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Ireland. Thank you.
Thank you for the core group for bringing this resolution to us. It is, I think, quite pertinent at the moment, especially considering how fast this technology is in fact moving internationally. Whilst we also see the absolute benefits, especially for people who have damaged spinal cords and others, to be able to communicate with the world around them. Needless to say, such technologies that will be able to manipulate the brainwaves and the brains of people also have inherent human rights risks to it. And I think it is quite pertinent that the Human Rights Council has already started to look about the human rights risks and the implications of technology that could voluntary or involuntary manipulate the human brain. Thank you.
I thank the South African colleague, and I see that you have excellent relationship with Ireland, with you interchange. So now allow me to give the floor to Ireland. And thank you, colleague thank you, Ivan.
Thank you. We would like to thank the core group for the draft text and for convening this informal meeting. We look forward to engaging constructively with the text and considering the human rights implications of neurotechnologies. We will have suggestions to strengthening OP1 of the draft text. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to thank Greece, Chile, and Singapore for presenting this important resolution that tackles a very new subject that raises many legal and ethical questions that the international community needs to start addressing its potential impacts and consequences. In this regard, Egypt is supporting this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Lithuania.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor, and thank you for the core group for presenting very interesting resolution on a modern and relevant topic. We especially think that it is good that you suggest a study firstly before taking any further drastic actions and to look more closely into the topic. We appreciate your suggestion to take into account all the relevant work done by other organizations, and we believe it is important to avoid duplication and bring new elements to Human Rights Council. And we will have few suggestions for the OPs, but in general, very positive perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Israel.
Thank you, Natalia, and thank you to the whole core group for organizing the meeting. We're very happy that you're picking up one of the proposals of the advisory committee and trying to give a mandate to work on this. As you know, the topic of new and emerging technologies and the implications for human rights is very important for Israel. So we're looking with very much interest this resolution and the upcoming report, if hopefully it's going to pass. We like that there are some references on the text to have it balanced, because we fear that sometimes here at the Council everything is about the challenges and the problems that technology poses and not also the opportunities. So we're happy to see some of those elements present in the text. But we will try to have some constructive suggestions to try to improve it, and especially, as you know, also supportive of language that would include persons with disabilities more clearly here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. And I have Russian Federation.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Well, we believe that the topic which the project touches upon is quite sensitive. It's quite complex. It contains a lot of different aspects. So, therefore, the text is being thoroughly analyzed now in Moscow. Once we receive the formal instruction, we'll be able to speak more in details and present our proposals and comments on the text. So far, it's the initial analysis shows that it's quite a sophisticated and complex topic. And we would like to know if we are talking about one-time initiative, or do you have plans to introduce this initiative such like a long-term initiative, and do you have any plans to develop it and present new aspects of this topic? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I have Australia.
Thank you, and thank you to the core group for presenting this resolution. It's clear that this is an issue of emerging importance in human rights, and it's pertinent to be considering it at this session. As many other issues considered throughout the Council, we consider it very important that our consideration of the issue and any directions for further action, including the study as suggested, incorporate principles of diversity and inclusion, and in particular appropriate references to people with disability in this resolution. We understand there's a high risk that neurotechnology could be misused for persons with disabilities due to the prevalence of the outdated medical model of disability, which was articulated by the Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Persons with Disability in their report on the impact of ableism in medical and scientific practice, which is 4341. As such, we're going to propose a couple of amendments that are quite high priority for Australia around ensuring that the resolution is elevating the CRPD and not contravening it, and ensuring that it aligns with the Special Rapporteur's report I just referenced. In addition to that, we see a couple of opportunities for strengthened text around gender and with welcome consideration of the gender dimensions to the study in particular. We look forward to working constructively. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have Panama, Grisel.
Gracias, Natalia, and good afternoon, dear colleagues. First of all, we would like to thank the core group, Greece, Chile, and Singapore, for presenting this important initiative, which Panama strongly supports. We think that is very relevant, and it is important that the Human Rights Council adapt itself to the new realities of the 21st century. And while I acknowledge that some colleagues have said that we do not have the expertise on neurotechnology, but I think that this is the whole purpose of having this study, to start understanding this topic and how it relates to human rights and the work of the Human Rights Council. And it's better to start studying this with a preventive approach, as my colleague from Costa Rica mentioned, rather than to be reactive when these type of technologies are well developed and can cause harm to the full enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms. So in this regard, we do not have at this stage any concrete language proposal, but because we are very happy with the text as it is, but we will look closely and we will welcome any proposal that will further strengthen, particularly those related to persons with disabilities and gender perspective. Thank you.
Gracias, Grisel. Now I have Republic of Korea.
Thank you very much, the core group, for drafting this resolution and for convening this meeting today. I have yet to receive concrete instructions, but initially we find that it is a new and an interesting topic, and we welcome how the resolution is focused on requesting a report to the advisory committee. We also welcome the references to the resolution on new and emerging technologies, and we look forward to engaging constructively further. I thank you.
Thank you. Now I have United States.
Thank you for giving me the floor, and good morning to everyone. Thank you to Greece and to the rest of the core group for your efforts in pulling together and circulating the zero draft, and also let me echo my thanks for the concept note. It was very helpful. We've reviewed the zero draft with great interest and are still considering it, but very much appreciate the core group organizing this discussion today on a very interesting topic. We will have a few suggestions for clarity in places, but overall look forward to hearing the views of others and engaging in a constructive conversation about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I have the colleague from Iraq on the list.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. We would like to thank the core group for convening this meeting and for the draft resolution and the concept note. I think it's a timely initiative, and we are looking for constructive cooperation in the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Switzerland, please.
Thank you, Natalia. And I would like to first thank the core group for presenting this resolution and for convening these first informal consultations today. I would like to state that we believe that this is a particularly important subject and that we are very supportive of the resolution, of the text as it stands. We will only have one minor comment, but otherwise we are very happy with the resolution. Thank you again.
Thank you, Camila. And now it's Mexico.
Muchas gracias, Natalia, for giving me the floor. Mexico would like to thank the core group for the presentation of this initiative. We sent the text to Capital. We haven't received yet final instructions. However, Mexico, as Costa Rica mentioned, deems this text as a good starting point to begin discussing on the different challenges as well as opportunities that neurotechnology may have in relation to human rights. So specific comments right now, but we look forward to hearing to other delegation suggestions, particularly on disabilities, persons with disabilities, and gender issues as well. Thank you.
Gracias, Montse. Now it's France.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for submitting this proposal of resolution. So it's a good starting point to discuss about the implication of the neurotechnologies and the human rights issues. So you can count on us for discussion on a constructive manner, and we hope that the final text will be in line with the current international law, and of course within the limits of the mandate of the Human Rights Council. We have submitted the text to the Capitol, and we will just have a small suggestion for OP8, and that's it. So, but the text seems to be in line for the current moment. Thanks.
Merci beaucoup. Now I will turn to the list of speakers from the WebEx, and it's our colleague from Armenia.
Thank you very much, Natalia. I hope you can see and hear me. I would like to thank our Greek colleagues for taking leadership and together with our colleagues from Chile and Singapore compiling this draft resolution and delivering it to our consideration. Indeed, it sounds like a science fiction. Indeed, I am not an expert on this, and it is difficult to find experts on this in our capital as well. Our colleagues already gave an outline of major issues, and what we should strive in our opinion is a right balance between the scientific progress and the right to privacy on one hand, right balance in discussions that we are going to have in future, and in that sense our advice to the core group would be to aim for a minimalist approach to kickstart the discussion on this subject, and rather than make conclusions from what is transpiring from such a discussion. We have been delighted to learn that core group member Chile was a country that first regulated this issue in constitutional law of its own country, and we would be eagerly looking into the discussion and other states' best practices and approaches on this issue. Armenia is looking forward to constructive contribution and also an opportunity to learn from others. Thanks to the core group one more time.
Thank you, Nairi. Now I would like to give the floor to the representatives of NGOs, civil society. Yes, okay, so please present yourself, and we're all ears.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. This is Article 19. We're a global freedom of expression organization. We thank the core group for presenting the draft resolution. We're supportive of the initiative, as with other initiatives, to further assess the human rights impacts of new and emerging technologies here at the Council. I'm still checking the draft with colleagues in our digital team, but I can offer some general reflections. First, in line with some of the resolutions recall in PP3, we think it's important to explicitly outline the need to ensure transparency, accountability, and human rights due diligence throughout the life cycle of any new and emerging technology, including neurotechnologies. And second, we think it's important to explicitly recognize that the human rights impacts and risks of new and emerging technologies should be analyzed and understood before their deployment and use. So that said, we may have some constructive suggestions along those lines during negotiations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the civil society in the room here? Good. Okay, let us check the WebEx then. So I see Mr. Moises Sanchez in WebEx.
Thank you, Natalia. My name is Moises Sanchez, Executive Director of the Commonwealth Foundation. We appreciate this space to exchange ideas and proposals. We are coordinator of a group of experts in the Americas who are working on the development of the Inter-American Neuro Rights Standards. We carry out this work with Professor Juste, the Neuro Rights Foundation, and the Pro Bono Network of the Americas. In August 2001, the work of the group of experts promoted the Inter-American Declaration on Neurotechnology and Human Rights approved by the Inter-American Juridical Committee of the Organization of American States. Now, we are advanced in our continent in the elaboration of Inter-American principles in neuro rights. For this reason, we see with interest that the resolution promoted by Greece, Chile, and Singapore be approved, and we believe that this will be an important step for the neuro rights agenda at the international level, and we want to support this effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Rafael Yuste. I'm afraid we can't hear you right now. We will try again in a moment.
Sorry. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, now we can.
Yes. Sorry about that. Greetings from New York. I'm sorry I cannot be there with you. I represent two groups of people. One is 25 experts, the Morningside group. And these are people that represented the brain initiatives from all over the world and also experts in neurotechnology in the clinic, neurosurgeons and bioethicists and experts in the law. And the group identified neurotechnology and the potential effects on ethics and society as a human rights issue in 2017 and pushed the idea of new human rights or neuro rights. And I also represent the Neuro Rights Foundation together with my colleague Stephanie Herman. And this foundation is focused on research, advocacy, and dissemination of information related to neuro rights. We've been behind the Chilean efforts, and also maybe Stephanie can comment on our gap analysis with respect to existing human rights treaties. So we're completely behind this initiative. We thank Greece, Singapore, and Chile, and we think this is a fantastic time for the UN to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now it's Ms. Stephanie Herman.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us here today. My name is Stephanie Herman, and I'm an international human rights lawyer. I work with Rafa at the Neuro Rights Foundation, and what he described as our gap analysis is actually the world's first comprehensive analysis of how existing international human rights law intersects with neurotechnology. We've analyzed 7 of the 9 existing UN human rights treaties and assessed how well they do or do not protect the neuro rights, which are outlined by the Morningside Group and others, as broadly including a right of mental agency, mental identity, mental privacy, protection, discrimination, and algorithmic bias, and equal access to mental augmentation. In this report, we've proposed some draft language for potential comments to these treaties, as well as thematic reports and other types of engagement that might more comprehensively protect the neuro rights. And so I'd like to bring that report to the attention, to the attention of this group in case they have not yet read it through. We presented the findings in that report last month to the Human Rights Council's Advisory Committee, and it's available on our website, neurorightsfoundation.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't have anybody else who wishes to take the floor. So before we go through the text, just allow me to make a short comment. I must agree, I'm not an expert either. So that's why we're here today, and we hope to give the mandate to the experts, to the advisory committee, who will have the possibility to consult states, civil society, and all interested stakeholders, and analyze the issue as from a human rights perspective. So our goal today is to, as your colleague said, to kick off the discussion with a short and technical resolution. And regarding the question from my colleague from Russia on whether this is a one-off initiative, we would like to see the report from the advisory committee, and then we will decide how we will go. The core group will decide how they will move forward. So this is all from my side, and we can start now going through the text. It's a short text. We could probably have the first three PPs, so PP1, PP2, and PP3. So let's start with the colleagues that are here in the room, the states that are in the room. Yes, Costa Rica.
Thank you very much. Our suggestions for this set of paragraphs is mainly on PP3, although we understand that your reference is all relevant Human Rights Council resolutions. We do feel that perhaps two more could be included here because of the nature of the topic and what we and some other colleagues mentioned at the beginning in general comments on how neurotechnologies can impact decisions of a person. And so we would suggest to add at the end, after on the right of privacy in the digital age, two other resolutions, 50/15 of 8 July 2022 on freedom of expression, of opinion and expression, and 43/13 of 19 June 2020 on mental health and human rights. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Australia.
Thank you. Our edit is to PP2. We would strongly encourage reference to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to be listed after the Vienna Declaration and Programme of Action. As I said in my opening comments, it's essential that disability is included in the conversation here. And given the increased risks to people with disabilities, it's critical that the CRPD is integrated in any of these discussions on medical technologies and neurotechnologies. Thank you.
Thank you.
So our comment is regarding PP3. I think I will just second what the recommendations have been made by our colleague from Costa Rica. The first, which is resolution 50/15. And the second, I think it's the updated version, I don't know, but it's a 50/13 of 7th July 2022, which is again the access to medicines, vaccines, and other health products to attain the standard of physical and mental health. So it's probably, I don't know, it's the same resolution, but it's 50/13.
Okay, thank you. Noted. Israel.
Thank you, Natalia. Well, first of all, on PP2, we will fully support the comment made by Australia. We believe that the inclusion of CRPD is quite important. And we could also add a convention on the right of the child as well to make sure that when we're talking about technologies, we're also safeguarding the integrity and safety of children. So that will be on PP2. And then in PP3, I think that we're starting a long list if we start adding resolutions. So maybe you want to reconsider it and leave it in a more general way of all relevant resolutions or something. But it's up to you. We will support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Paraguay.
Gracias, Natalia. Thank you to the core group for presenting this new resolution. We want to support the proposal made by Australia in PP2. We think the inclusion of the CRPD is very important. The other comments is in PP3. We support a lot to the proposal made by India, particularly the addition of the resolution on access to medicine. So, yes, it's all for now. Thank you.
Gracias, Raquel. Panama.
Gracias, Natalia. We are happy with the way that this group of paragraphs were drafted, but we would like to react to some of the proposals. For example, in PP2, we support Australia suggestion to add CRPD, and also the suggestion made to add the reference to the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Because I know that sometimes it's very difficult to make the listing of the international human rights instrument, but in this case we are supportive to expand the list. Then in PP3, also we can support the suggestion made by Costa Rica, but we remain also flexible if there's any other relevant human rights council resolution that could be listed here, but we will leave it in the hands of the core group. Thank you.
Thank you. Mexico.
Gracias, Natalia. Just to echo the support to Australia's proposal to include RCPD in PP2, as well as Israel's proposal to include the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Thank you.
Thank you. South Africa, Ivan.
Thank you. We also would like to support Australia and Israel's proposals on PP2 on the rights of the child and disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'll return now to WebEx to see if there's a colleague there. I don't see anybody. All right. So let's now move to PP4. Let's say the PP4 for now. So this paragraph has to do actually with mentioning the guiding principles on business and human rights. And the idea is to present both the obligations of the states and responsibilities of the businesses in promoting and respecting human rights. It's basically straightforward. It's based on the previous resolution 47/16 on the promotion, protection, and enjoyment of human rights on the internet. So I would like to invite the colleagues if you have any comments on that. And Switzerland.
Thank you, Natalia. We will have a small suggestion. We would like to add, after business enterprises, we'd like to add including technology companies. We suggest to explicitly mention technology companies as they are particularly concerned by this topic. And for the wording, we based ourselves on the HRC resolution 47/23, the resolution on new and emerging digital technologies and human rights. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Natalia. In respect of PP4, in the second limb where it refers to the guiding principles on business and human rights, we would seek the deletion of have an obligation on the basis that we do not agree that the guidelines confer obligations on states as if it's not a binding instrument. And instead for it to read, but we're flexible in terms of terminology, protect, respect and remedy framework sets out states' commitments to protect, and business enterprises have a responsibility to respect human rights. But I can send that on over email if that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I see South Africa. This was before, right? Israel?
Thank you very much. Just to support the UK comment on PP4 to replace commitment obligations by commitment. Thank you.
Okay. South Africa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually want to do the opposite because states have obligations, full stop, for protecting human rights, whether or not it's applicable to the business one, but states have the responsibility to protect the human rights of its citizens at all times. It never has the luxury of removing that obligation. The addition of the business is just towards business, but we always have that obligation to protect. Thanks.
Thank you. Panama?
Gracias, Natalia. Our comment is very much in line with South Africa. We would prefer to keep paragraph the PP4 as drafted, with the inclusion of the proposal made by Switzerland to our technology companies, because as our colleagues from South Africa explained, that states have the obligation to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights. And in the way that the paragraph is drafted, it made it clear that in the case of business, they have a responsibility. So we would like to stick to what has been the agreed language in the human rights concept. Thank you.
Thank you. USA.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I would strongly support the UK's comment. We likewise are concerned about the accuracy of the language referring to obligations. I would be happy to see the UK's proposal in writing. I think the word duty could also serve as a substitute. I think that would more accurately track the framework that is being referenced here. And appreciate all colleagues' viewpoints. Certainly, we take the position that states do have obligations under international human rights law, but since this paragraph is specifically referring to them in the context of what the framework sets out, I would just make these recommendations for accuracy, or suggest as an alternative breaking out the language about the obligations of states under international human rights law separately so that it would be clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Well noted. Costa Rica?
Thank you. Natalia, just very quickly to echo support for the comments made by our colleagues from South Africa and Panama. We do believe that this paragraph should stay as originally drafted, although we can fully support the addition made by the delegation of Switzerland on including technology companies. Thank you.
Thank you. I think now we can move forward to, let's take together PP5 and PP6. In PP5, we tried to give, let's say, an idea of definition. Thank you. We tried to give an idea of a definition on what we're talking about, so what neurotechnology is about. And the best text that we could find was the 2019 OECD recommendations on responsible innovation in neurotechnologies. And then, regarding the PP6, we also want to give a general idea of our goal regarding the study on neurotechnology and its impact on human rights. So without prejudging the outcome, we just wanted to kickstart the discussion and give a general idea of the outcome. So also pretty straightforward. So I open the floor for comments. Australia.
Thank you for giving me the floor, and I will just flag that I will, of course, send through all of these edits in writing. We have a couple of amendments to PP6, which I think will support your intention of showing that this is kind of the goal of the study. We would suggest a reference to particularly persons with disabilities, so that it reads, the continued development of some of its applications, particularly for persons with disabilities, may pose a number of ethical, legal and societal questions. Again, we think it's important that that the high risk that neurotechnology can pose on persons with disability is recognised, and particularly in the study that is proposed. And then secondly, we would suggest that the reference to including in human rights terms could be strengthened, or there could be a more specific to human rights analysis of the ethical, legal and societal questions, but we're flexible on that language. Thanks.
Thank you. Costa Rica?
Thank you, Natalia. Also a proposal on PP6 at the end to strengthen the human rights-based approach and also have other considerations. And as I said at the beginning, on the spirit of precaution on this subject. So at the end of the paragraph where it says the need to be addressed, we would add and regulated with a human rights-based approach, comma, with specific considerations on age, race, gender, disability, ethnicity, culture, and religion. I will, of course, send this in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Pakistan.
Thank you. So in the PP6, we just have a small recommendation, and that is in the first line, recognizing that neurotechnology could be promising for human health. Here we can add healthcare technologies and innovation. So the idea is that it's the healthcare technologies which promise the most and which pose the risk as well. So I think we need to specify a little bit here that what is the promise and what is the risk. So it is in terms of the healthcare technologies associated with neurotechnology. So this is our recommendation for PP6. Thank you.
Thank you. Israel.
Thank you very much, Natalia. As you said many times, I'm not an expert on this issue. So, particularly regarding PP5, it sounds like a very strong affirmation. We're actually consulting with our capital for this particular PP5 because it's very affirmative. So we have some concerns here. I'm not asking anything at this point, but just to point out that this is one that we have some doubts. Regarding PP6, we could definitely support Australia's proposal, and actually would like to add also older persons on PP6. And I think that I can go in line as well with the suggestion made by Costa Rica, but I would have to read it because it was a bit long, but we're in favor of the human rights-based approach and the grounds that he mentioned. However, I prefer to retain the idea of human health without care, because it may be farther than just treatment for care. The potentiality of neurotechnology, so we would prefer to retain it as you drafted it in that part. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we can move now to PP7, South Africa, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Sorry for raising the flag late. We would also support PP6, and Israel on the issue of disability and older persons. Regarding to PP5, Israel does mention that it's quite a strong affirmation sentence, and that also concerns us. Maybe at the end of it, I know that it's based on the OECD recommendation, but maybe at the end of it, after persons are right at the end, we could say, and therefore the risk of misuse. Because this is very affirmative, and there's a huge risk of misuse here when you're talking about something that manipulates the brain. Some language regarding the misuse, potential misuse of this technology.
Thank you. If you want to share language, please share your proposals in writing. Although our goal is to say as factual as possible, and but we can revisit this paragraph. So Mexico, sorry.
Gracias, Natalia. Mexico could support Australia's proposal to include, particularly for persons with disabilities, in PP6. And subject of further analysis, potentially we could also support Costa Rica's proposal for this PP. Thank you.
Thank you. I think now, yes, we can move forward to PP7 and PP8. In PP7, we try to incorporate agreed language on resolution 47/23 on new and emerging digital technologies. And again, in order not to prejudge the outcome and give a general idea of the study that we're looking from the advisory committee. And PP8, we felt it was necessary to make a reference to the Secretary General's report or common agenda where he actually recognizes that states should give consideration to updating or clarifying the application of human rights framework and standards to address frontier issues and prevent harms in digital and or technology space, including, among other issues, in neurotechnology. So I would like to invite you to give us your comments on these two paragraphs, PPA 7 and 8. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Natalia. In respect of PP8, the reference to updating, we're seeking for that to be removed. Our general position is that we do not consider that the human rights framework needs to be updated to accommodate new forms of technology. As an aside to that, we're also concerned that it could be read to preempt the direction in which the advisory committee should reach its conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you. Israel?
Thank you, Natalia. On PP7, we're very supportive of your proposal. As you said, we're trying to find out what is happening around here. So we support this approach of having impacts, opportunities, and challenges, the positive and the negative, as something to be explored. In the same way that we like that you're proposing a coherent, holistic, inclusive, and comprehensive approach to do it. So very supportive of PP7. Regarding PP8, we may be on board with the UK proposal to delete updating, but it's a debate that we're having currently about what we're doing with the new and emerging technologies and the online offline. We know that rights are the same and should be protected, but maybe we need to clarify how we do it, and maybe that part of clarifying it's worthy to retain. Thank you.
Thank you. Franz?
Thank you, Chair. So we would like to make a proposal for PP8, third line, so after framework and standard, to propose to suppress the expression to address frontier issue and prevent harms in the digital or technology spaces, including in, and to replace this expression by just regarding neurotechnology. And thank you.
Thank you. Australia?
Thank you. Just to say that we would support the UK's amendment to remove updating to PP8.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Panama.
Gracias, Natalia. Very quick on PP8, we would prefer to keep the paragraph as drafted. We do not consider that the current formulation, which is based on the report of our Comité, is by any chance prejudging, and actually is something that will need to be considered by the advisory committee when they are developing the study, and also the comments that they will receive from states and other stakeholders, whether it is a question of clarification or if there is indeed a need for updating. And the way that the formulation is giving the two options, updating or clarifying, and that's part of the discussion. I think that deleting one aspect is already prejudging the outcome of the study. So that's for this reason that we prefer to keep it as it is. And since I'm taking the floor, I was very slow for the previous group, but on the PPC, just to register our support to Australia proposal to add persons with disabilities, Israel comment also on older persons, and also Costa Rica proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Grisel. USA.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Just taking the floor to also express our support for the UK's proposal to PP8. Thank you.
Thank you. South Africa?
Just taking the floor to support our colleague from Panama's proposal.
Thank you. Just very quickly to support Panama's proposal on PP8. Thank you.
Australia, you raised your plate again? Okay. All right, thank you. this brings us to the end of the PPs. Just allow me a comment on PP8. Our goal was to stay actually as we actually copied the text itself from our common agenda. So we're actually copying the text of the Secretary General as is. So our initial reaction would be to keep it as drafted. And yes, for now this is our view, to keep it as drafted. And furthermore, we are actually noting that simply in this text, in this report, the Secretary General states the following. So we can move now to OPs. In OP1, I think we can take them all together and have a comment on all three of them. In OP1, again, we did not want to prejudge the outcome. We just want to give to the advisory committee the necessary mandate in order to prepare a study that would include impacts, opportunities, and challenges of neurotechnology in a general perspective, and also including in the Human Rights Council perspective. And the OP2 is also a copy from previous relevant resolutions. So actually the idea is that the advisory committee should consult all relevant stakeholders in the preparation of the report. And OP3, again, it's agreed language from previous resolutions. And our idea is for the mandate holders of the Human Rights Council to have a view of the issue of the impact of neurotechnology on human rights when they prepare their own reports and when they do their work. And so I can give now the floor to you for comments. Israel.
Thank you, Natalia. The mandate that you're giving in OP1, as I said before, it has a balance. It refers to opportunities and challenges. So it's a way that actually is giving a mandate to do a research without prejudging, as you said. Having said that, I would like to propose something to add at the end of the paragraph. As you know, we are very committed to the promotion of accessibility to all the work of the Human Rights Council. So following 16/21, and what we are doing with the task force on accessibility and the priorities that they presented, we would like to add at the end of the paragraph, when it says and to present a study to the Human Rights Council at its 56th session, to add in an accessible and easy to read format. So the budget allocation can be made. This is something that OHCHR has clarified. If we don't say it in the resolution, they don't have money to do it. So we're trying to make sure that it's included in all the resolutions, so they can ask for the PVI for that. On OP2, I agree with you that it's a green language and we're happy with this, but considering the impacts and the focus that we believe that some specific groups may have with this, I don't have a very clear proposal, but I think we would like to see, when you're talking about civil society, to include the reference to persons with disabilities and their representing organizations as well, since they have a direct impact on them, and we want to make sure that the voice is heard when this report is prepared. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Costa Rica?
Thank you, Natalia. As our colleague from Israel said, I think this is a very good paragraph, and the way forward on this study is well put by the core group. Having said that, we do have a small suggestion or small phrase on OP1, similar to the one I made previously on PIP. And it's when qualifying the study, when it says, in a coherent, holistic, inclusive, and action-oriented manner, we would like to add also the phrase, and with specific considerations on age, race, gender, disability, ethnicity, culture, and religion. So that due human rights precautions are given or start to be studied in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you, and please share this comment in writing. Lithuania.
Thank you very much. Just on OP1 and OP2, we are fully in line with you that in OP1 we shouldn't be implying anything before the study is presented. So we would just suggest in line 3, after including recommendations on how human rights we would suggest instead of how to write whether human rights opportunities, challenges, and gaps arising from neurotechnology should be addressed by the Human Rights Council instead of could. So the study is more broad and can give us a mandate to look into implications more closely. And on OP2, at the end of the paragraph, we would suggest to add and take all necessary measures to avoid duplication of the work already done by them. So we don't duplicate the work done by organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And also, again, please share these comments in writing. Ireland.
Thank you, Chair. We have suggested improvements to OP1, drawing on agreed language from Resolution 4723. So on the third line, with regard to the promotion and protection of human rights, we propose adding the following. Inter alia, the rights of persons with disabilities and those in vulnerable situations. As is this, we also propose the insertion of a reference to human and gender equality opportunities, challenges and gaps arising from neurotechnology. Thank you.
Thank you. Pakistan.
Thank you. So regarding OP1, we have one recommendation in line 3, and that is after, with regard to the promotion and protection of human rights, this phrase may be added, especially in balancing the right to health and right to privacy. And that is again to ensure that when the final report comes, it does duly reflect the right balance between the challenges and opportunities that are available with neurotechnology, especially in the domain of human rights. And after that, in line 4, it's just a structural change. You can keep it, or if you don't want, I think that's fine. That is including recommendations on how human rights opportunities, challenges, and gaps. So instead of that, on how opportunities, challenges, and gaps related to human rights arising from neurotechnology. So these are just 2 changes in OP1 we recommend. And generally, we are happy with OP2 and OP3. One recommendation would be for the advice, if you can pass on, and that is to study a little bit. This can also be started in respect to availability of these technologies for developing countries and how this has exacerbated the digital divide that already exists. So if that can be included, some part of the report can address to this issue as well, I think it will be very happy. Thank you.
Thank you, colleague. Paraguay.
Thank you, Natalia. I would like just to support, for us it's very important to have a language on accessible format in OP1. So I don't remember the country that proposed that, but we really support it.
Thank you. Australia.
Thank you for giving me the floor again. There's been a number of suggestions to OP1 to improve the text and ensure that the report covers a number of issues. We have some proposed text, but we are flexible on it. So I'll send you the text in writing, but flag what we're keen to see included. The first is to flag that the study should be gender inclusive or gender responsive in the first line. The second would be to include reference to the rights of persons with disabilities. So the wording that we were suggesting is the impacts, opportunities and challenges of neurotechnology with regard to the promotion and protection of human rights, paying careful attention to the rights of persons with disabilities. Though I understand there's been a number of proposals, so we're happy to be flexible on that. And then finally, we would suggest including a reference to the unintended consequences of biased technology to ensure that that is covered in the study. The sentence that we would suggest would be after the phrase holistic, inclusive and action-oriented manner, and would read, and addressing the risks that neurotechnology may pose to the enjoyment of human rights by minority communities, including through unintended biases in algorithmic expression that may entrench forms of discrimination, including with respect to gender. But again, similar things have been raised, so happy to work with the core group on what that looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. South Africa.
As my colleague from Australia said, lots have been said in the meantime. So firstly, considering what they just said, I would support the language regarding unintended biases in algorithms. We would love to see the language say, as well as the gender responsive. And that's all on OP1. And OP1 also, again, we will support the proposal by Israel at the end for that inclusive in an ensure accessibility phrase that they used. That's very important, I think, in all our resolutions. Thanks, Israel, for that. Also, the comments made by Pakistan on OP2 and 3, that's extremely important too, regarding digital divide, exacerbation of digital divide. We would like to see the language proposed by Pakistan on that, as well as the right to privacy. Again, this is an intrusive technology that would, of course, take away very much the rights of privacy if misused. Also, in OP1, Ireland's proposal, we will support that as well as Costa Rica's proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. USA?
Thank you for giving me the floor. There's a lot here, so maybe I will just say that in principle, the United States is very supportive of various proposals to strengthen the inclusivity of the text. Very much would like to see them in writing for consideration with capital, but some of the proposals by Australia, by Ireland, by Israel to be more inclusive of persons with disabilities, having a gendered focus, persons in marginalized groups, I think we would generally be supportive of those. With respect to Pakistan's suggestion on OP1, adding the right to health and the right to privacy, recognizing this subject matter very much implicates health and privacy equities. I think we would not be supportive of the inclusion of that terminology framed that way. If there were a reference to rights regarding health and regarding privacy, the United States' strong view would be that those should track the language from the UDHR and the ICCPR and the other core human rights conventions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mexico?
Gracias, Natalia. Just in a similar way as we have support before the references to persons with disabilities, we would like to support Israel's suggestion to make the accessibility to guarantee accessibility in what is requested, as well as to refer to persons with disabilities and gender responsive study in OP1 as was proposed by Australia. And in OP2, I think Israel also mentioned the possibility of including persons with disabilities and their representative organizations, that's something that Mexico could also propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Panama.
Gracias, Natalia. Regard to OP1, we strongly support a suggestion made by Israel, and as many colleagues has mentioned, I think that it is important that all the reports that are requested to the Office of the High Commissioner, the Advisory Committee, or anybody of the Human Rights Council is requested to be made accessible. And there have been a couple of suggestions regarding OP1 that I think we will have to see in writing, but in principle we can be very flexible. Then we, in principle, support the proposal I think was made by Australia to have a reference on bias. However, we will be a bit cautious of referring to unintended bias, because sometimes actually the bias is intentional. So we would prefer not to have this qualifier, but of course we will be open of possibilities of how to draft it. Then we can also be open with the proposal made by Pakistan to reinforce the notion of the right to privacy and the right to health. And I think there was also a suggestion, but I couldn't hear which delegation made the suggestion to have a gender dimension and to add a reference to gender responsibility. I think that we can also be very supportive to that. Thanks.
Thank you. I think the colleague from Ireland, yes, thank you. Excellent. Now let's go to WebEx. Great. So now I would like to listen let's listen to the NGOs on all the text of the draft resolution. And I see Mr. Rafael Yuste.
Thank you, Natalia. Gracias. I wanted to provide a little bit of background for the discussion of an issue that's important, and this is the one raised by the U.S. Versus the Panama comment on whether it's necessary to update or clarify. This is a complex issue. There are different types of neurotechnology that have different types of ethical and societal impact. And we're talking not about mental privacy, but also mental identity. We're talking about potential risks to free will, fair access to mental augmentation, and protection from bias. Not all these issues are equally urgent, but there is one that's urgent, which is mental privacy. Our foundation has studied the existing consumer user agreements of 24 neurotechnology companies in the U.S., and every one of these companies takes ownership of the brain data of the customer. So this is already a bad start for this technology. And you could argue that all of these things are shared by the human right to dignity as enshrined in the Universal Declaration. The results from our gap analysis that my colleague Stephanie Herman mentioned are confirmed that the existing framework is not sufficient. The human rights framework, they lack the language and the precision to discuss a lot of these issues. For instance, just to give you one example, there's no language in any of rights treaties or general comments to distinguish between invasive and non-invasive brain-computer interfaces. This is just one example. There's some neural rights that are better protected than others. So the best protected one probably is the right to agency, but the worst protected one could be the right to identity. So we think that it's a high time for special procedures or special opinions or general comments to address some of these deficits in the existing human rights framework. And again, I would encourage you to think of mental privacy as the urgent case, and perhaps the ICCPR as the potential target for these special opinions, since the other issues are not so important. Just to finish, this framework of approaching a neural rights framework is a growing source of consensus. It's not just in Chile. Spain also has incorporated them in their Charter of Digital Rights. The Organization for American State has unanimous declaration on this issue. UNESCO, it was mentioned, OECD. And we're here for any help we can provide. Our foundation has expertise in both neurotechnology and human rights. Thank you, Natalia.
Thank you, Natalia. Just for support the Rafael Yuste comments, just this, thank you.
So thank you very much. We don't believe that we need another informal. Please send us your comments in writing, and we will work on a revised draft, and we will keep you all posted. If it's possible to have them today or at least until tomorrow, and we will stay in touch. And that's all. We will not have no more informals. We will work bilaterally. Thank you.
Just this.